I was an overweight sophomore in high school, and my sister convinced me to go up there and sing this fucking show tune in homemade shorts with suspenders. It is awful. The video is out there, and it will never be seen again.
From Annie, Get Your Gun?
Yes. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. No, you can't. Yes,
No,
I
you
can.
can't.
No, you can't. Yes, I can. I could shoot a sparrow with the bow and arrow. Yes, it was bad.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love and growing up really that good? You ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your three co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Ashley Schlafly.
Hi, y'all.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out our race car VHS tape rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of the podcast, 3 of us will provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. Find all the information or past episodes at Shat on TV. And finally, for those who crave all of our Shat, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel. Go to shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where you can catch both past and live content every week. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can link that to your Twitch account and subscribe to our channel for free.
That being said, Big D, what movie are we doing this episode?
So this week is a very special episode. I don't believe we've done a musical before, have we?
Would you consider Predator 2 a musical?
Well, it does have some great dance numbers, and the
Right.
soundtrack is killer. But
Sure.
we got a commission from Mike from Norfolk, England, and for some reason he must love American musicals, romantic comedies, and sequels to great films. So he said, "Guys and girls, please cover the 1982 flop Grease 2."
And anytime we have someone send in a commission, we ask them to either send in a voicemail or an email explaining why they sent in money commissioning this movie. And Mike wrote in, "Dear Shat crew, my name's Mike and I live in Norfolk. I've been a big fan of Shat the Movies and Shat on TV from almost the beginning and will happily re-listen to episodes several times over to pass the hours away at work. But because of that, I felt the need to put my hand in my pocket and give back, so I would like to commission a film that might not be considered successful, but has picked up somewhat of a cult following over the years. The film is Grease 2. That's right, not Grease, but Grease 2, the sequel, a far superior movie. My obsession with this film started many years ago, and I've lost count of the number of times since I've seen it since. I don't remember the first time, as it was released 2 years before I was born, but it was brought to our house when I was really young thanks to my elder sister, Juliet. Many of the scenes went over my head as a child, but I loved it anyway because it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And because of this film, I developed a healthy obsession with motorcycles, even going as far as to build my own exact replica from the film. Now, the acting isn't great, and I'm pretty sure Michelle Pfeiffer wishes she could omit it from her resume, but none of that matters to me. I just can't help but love it. So there you go, guys. Have at it. And if you, by chance, haven't had the pleasure of seeing this movie before, then I'm dreadfully sorry in advance. Warmest regards from across the pond. And of course, that comes from Mike in Norfolk, England. Well, Grease 2 is a 1982 American musical romantic comedy film and the sequel to the 1978 film Grease, which is based on the 1971 musical of the same name by Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey. Originally titled More Grease, the film was directed and choreographed by Patricia Birch, who also choreographed the first film and the Broadway musical. It takes place 2 years after the original film at Rydell High School, now set in the 1961-62 school year with an almost entirely new cast, led by actors Maxwell Caulfield and Michelle Pfeiffer in her first starring role. The film was released theatrically on June 11th, 1982, and grossed over $15 million against a production budget of just $11 million. So Big D, it was not a flop. It actually made money. The film now best known for the breakout roles for Pfeiffer and Christopher McDonald, who you might know as Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore, was otherwise poorly received, with Grease co-creator Jim Jacobs, who did not have any involvement with Grease 2, particularly displeased with the film. Now, before we dive into the review and break down the movie and give you our thoughts on it, we always ask the question, where were you? What are your memories of this movie? We'll start with you, Ashley.
So I first saw Grease 2, I guess I was about 11 or 12 years old. So it would have been the early 90s. And I have an aunt that's always been more like an older sister to me. She absolutely loved this movie. And one day she was like, you know what? Your parents have only shown you Grease. It's not as good. So we're going to watch this. And so we watched it on the floor of my parents' bedroom one Saturday morning. And I remember really distinctly seeing this film for the first time. It had a really big impact on me from first viewing, and I just kind of fell in love with Michelle Pfeiffer. I demanded to be a little bit like her when I got older. It remains the only movie that I've ever thought motorcycles were cool in. And since then, my aunt and I, and eventually my younger brother, we all pretty much watch this yearly as a sort of tradition. So this is a film that's one of my favorites, not my favorite ever, but one of my favorite modern musicals. And I'm beyond excited to be talking about it tonight.
What about you, Big D? Had you ever seen Grease 2 before we got the commission in from Mike?
Oh, no, I've never seen Grease 2, but Grease 1 is one of the first two films I can remember seeing. I remember seeing Star Wars in the back of my parents' station wagon in a drive-in, and I can remember going to see Grease with my mother and my sister. I was 5. I only remember bits and pieces of the movie, but I remember thinking that the music was super cool. So much so that there were 2 records that my parents bought for me. One was the Beatles' Help, and the other was the soundtrack to Grease. And I tell you, I wore those things out. My parents recorded me singing Grease Lightning and also Help. Right. I have the cassette buried somewhere in the garage. I'm going to try my best to go out and get it. So there might be a 5-year-old Big D singing Grease Lightning if I can find it. I know on the tape is Rubber Ducky, but that when I was far younger. But if I can find it, I'll put it at the end of the cast. But I mean, for me, I really remember this movie thinking how cool it would be to be in high school and look like these people. But before this was commissioned, I had never thought I'm going to sit down and watch Grease 2. That had never crossed my mind.
Now, as a kid, did you record yourself a lot, like on video cassette or just cassettes, just like playing with friends, like you were a DJ or singing?
Not that I can remember, because tapes weren't that cheap, you know? So, no, I mean, right. I was 5 years old at this point. So it wasn't like my parents were giving me a tape recorder, because that shit was expensive. Yeah.
But like, did they ever encourage you to follow your dreams and be on the stage? Like, were you ever in the drama department?
No, thankfully not.
No, they never put you like in school plays or anything like that?
I don't want to talk about that. That is a touchy subject. The talent show. I did a talent show skit with my sister. We sang Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better. I was an overweight sophomore in high school without a girlfriend, and my sister convinced me to go up there and sing this fucking show tune in homemade shorts with suspenders. It is awful. The video is out there, and it will never be seen again.
From Annie, Get Your Gun?
Yes. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. No, you can't. Yes,
no,
I
you
can.
can't.
No, you can't. Yes, I can. I could shoot a sparrow with the bow and arrow. Yes, it was bad.
Listen, if someone sends in $200 to therogerroper@gmail.com,
no.
I will personally email you a copy of this video, $250 a pop. Well, it's interesting that you talk about that, because as a young freshman neophyte in the Cypress Creek High School drama department in Orlando, Florida, I caught the attention of a much older senior who was playing the lead in the spring production of Grease. And I remember being extremely smitten with not only an older woman, but also the world of Grease. I was not in the production. I couldn't do it because baseball also ran in the spring, but I did help out with painting some of the sets during the day. And at night, Sandra D would come over for some summer lovin'. And though I never showed her my Grease Lightning, she introduced me to those magic changes that I was experiencing as a 14-year-old hound dog. Let's just say that love is a mini splendored thing, as she was born to hand jive, but alas, it was raining on prom night as she left me alone at the drive-in for another guy. And I guess we just didn't go together as much as I had hoped. And Anyways, to mend a broken heart, there are worse things I could do than to rent the movie Grease in remembrance of my time with her. And watching the original left tears on my pillow. However, when it popped in Grease 2, I could barely make it through the opening scene. And this was the second time in my life today watching this movie. And I can honestly say that rock and roll was not here to stay. So for all you Grease heads out there, you'll get those. You'll get exactly what I just said. Is that what you call them? Grease heads who like Grease?
I don't think it has that large of a fan base to have a Grease head
I disagree
anymore.
with you. I
think old people like Grease.
Oh,
listen, there's a lot of old people.
I think it's a generational thing.
Feels like a little ageism going in.
Well, then it's ageism for you not to like Grease too, because it's a young people thing. So I think it's very much a generational divide. But we'll get into that.
Big D, play the trailer.
To be a wonderful year, Blanche.
Oh, wonderful.
Spending my vacation in the summer sun. Getting lots of action, having lots of fun. Snoring like a bandit to the bumble birds. Summer came down to September birds. Whoa, it's me.
Personally, I think that being late demonstrates terrible leadership qualities. Well, I'm not waiting anymore. Here she is. Well, we're going to be late. Let's go.
Geometry and history is just a pain. Biology and chemistry destroys my brain. Well, don't they know that I deserve a better fate? I'm really much too young.
When your cousin Sandy told me you were coming to school in America, I said, Sandy, any cousin of yours is a cousin of mine.
Hey, you caught it. How tall are you? Never mind. We'll put high heels on your sneakers, and we'll make you a center.
Then I saw this angel hopping down the street. I said, hey, pretty baby, how's about a date?
Hello, boys.
Good morning, Miss Mason.
I would really love to see all of you in music appreciation this year, okay?
I'd like to see all of you in music appreciation this year.
You just might.
Oh, I think I'm in love. We're gonna rock, we're gonna roll, we're gonna rock, we're gonna roll.
It's better to play with a group than with yourself.
We're going prowling. We're going prowling. Tonight.
When is the best time of the month for a woman to conceive?
At night?
Reproduction.
Reproduction. Put your pollen tube to work.
Reproduction.
Reproduction. Make my stamen go berserk.
Reproduction.
I don't think they even know what a pistol is.
I got your pistol right here.
I've missed my last 2 periods.
That's all right, dear. You can make them up after school. What are you going to be when you grow up?
A burden on society.
Grease 2, the feeling goes on forever.
It is 1961, 2 years after the original Grease ended, and the first day of school has arrived as Principal McGee and her secretary Blanche react in horror as the students, among them the new T-Birds and Pink Ladies, arrive at high school. The Pink Ladies are now led by Stephanie Zinone, who feels that she has outgrown her relationship with her ex-boyfriend Johnny, the arrogant and rather immature new leader of the T-Birds. A new arrival comes in the form of clean-cut English student Michael, a cousin of Sandy, who is led around by Frenchie, who apparently came back to get her high school degree to start a cosmetics company.
So, Roger, you challenged my assertion that this movie was a flop. Grease, the original, is the second most popular musical of all time, according to adjusted box office.
So old people there.
That's correct. And according to anyone who counts money, it is the 26th most successful film ever. It grossed worldwide $400 million. Grease 2, $15 million. That is a flop. Okay. And Grease 2 had double the budget of the original. So you say, why was Grease 2 so bad? Why did it flop with the critics at the box office? And the answer is there was no script. Director Patricia Birch herself said, when they started filming, there was no script. People started to ask, why did Frenchie disappear halfway through the film? Why did Cher drop out of being cast as Paulette? Why does the final act dissolve into nonsensical chaos? And it's all because Birch, and I feel bad for her, was forced to go into production and film a movie without knowing how the story was going to go.
Well, one of the things that Grease and Grease 2 both suffer from is older students. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like the students are much older than high school. Cher would have been 35 at the filming if she was in this movie, which I think would have been probably a little bit too old to be.
But I mean, that's an 80s and 90s thing, though. Like, I feel like teens, until very recently, teens did not start looking like teens in movies. Like, even like, if you take like my generation, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I mean, Charisma Carpenter, who played Cordelia, she was 30 when they started filming that series, and she's playing a 15-year-old. So I mean, I think that's like a really common thread. But I agree with you. It's pretty laughable how some of them look like grown-ass men and grown-ass women throughout both Grease 1 and Grease 2. But one of the ones that doesn't, I think, is Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, she was very close in age to the character that she was playing. And I understand what you're saying, Big D, about the script, but I think what's so interesting about Patricia Birch directing is that she has been interviewed many times, and she said that she wanted to change the things that didn't work about Grease 1, and she wanted to keep the things that did and capitalize on them. And one of those things she wanted to change was the female role, completely flipping on its head what Sandy was, the antithesis of what Sandy was in Grease 1. And you get that in Stephanie Zinone. And from the very moment she walks on the screen, I'm there for absolutely everything that Michelle Pfeiffer is doing. I think I've kind of alluded to this, not subtly so far, that I'm not a big fan of the original Grease movie. And a lot of that is because I really can't stand the character of Sandy that Olivia Newton-John plays. I think she's mousy. I think it's so gross that she tries to change everything about herself for this incredibly unintelligent greaser dude. And here, though, you've got Stephanie. She's this confident woman. She's what I wanted Sandy to be. She works for a living. She changes tires. She gets cars. And she's super sexually aware in a way that most women of the time she's both acting in, as well as even in the 80s, I had not seen a woman who really owned her own sexuality and owned who she was more than Stephanie. And there's a reason why she's taught as a big feminist character in film from the 80s, because she's hot, she's cool, and she knows who the fuck she is. And I love her.
So I understand that this was, it's viewed as a feminist iconic film. But I found myself asking questions about this whole Pink Lady thing, right? I'm like, is the Pink Lady code, are they, do they have to have sex? Or do they have to hook up with the T-Birds? Where's my trophy for winning the bowling? So then I did some research, some hard hitting. I dove in there. I pulled up the Pink Lady code, and rule number 2, at no time is a Pink Lady to become romantic with anyone other than a T-Bird member. So I was like, maybe they have to hook up. But then Rule 8 set me straight, says, contrary to popular belief, performing sex acts for the T-Birds is not required for a Pink Lady. They just can't or shouldn't die a virgin or shouldn't die wearing their mother's underpants. So I was happy to find out that these characters still weren't required to perform sex acts to be in the Pink Ladies.
See, I have a different take on the original Sandy in Grease. I thought the whole purpose of that movie was that when they met in summer, they were both being their authentic selves. And when they got to high school, and John Travolta, he's like putting on this whole like tough guy act, that's not really truly who he is. Sandy actually got to see the real Danny, right? She got to experience that. And then they realized that like at the end, once they stopped playing games, that's what attracts them. Like, I didn't find Sandy to be mousy. I thought she was really confident in herself, and like she wins over the Pink Ladies by teaching them you can be yourself.
No, she wins them over by completely changing herself and putting on a bunch of hot pants and frizzing her hair out and looking all sexy. I mean, that's who she becomes. I mean, she is who she really is. And when she meets Danny, and then she stays who she is, and he doesn't want to be with her anymore because he's embarrassed and he's too cool and all of that. I mean, Sandy's pretty fairly boring character. She's a goody two shoes, and she's pretty boring. And
sounds like someone would be singing "Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee," huh?
Absolutely. I mean, Lazarus
Really?
virginity. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, but the problem is that the end of the movie, they make a huge deal out of the fact that like she's clearly like embracing the sexual side and clearly going to now put out for Danny. And so, it's kind of gross.
That's an interesting take. I never heard of Sandy being that way. But the character who I do feel bad for is Frenchie in this film. And I know there's some holdovers like Sid Caesar as the football coach, but I really feel bad for Frenchie here. Like you said, she disappears halfway through the movie. She's incredibly underutilized because I went back immediately after Grease 2 and I watched Grease 1, and you could tell like all the characters are having fun. It feels like she's not having fun on screen here. It's a lot like, did you guys ever watch Saved by the Bell, the new class, where like Screech was the only holdover, or season 9 of Scrubs? That's how I felt they were doing with the Sid Caesar and the Frenchie character.
Well, I think you look at it. We had a $400 million, top 26 film of all time. They tried to recapture that, and Cher ran away from this, non-script. All the main actors ran away, so they got what they could to at least have some kind of continuity. You had the school principal, you had the wacky secretary, you had some other people around the school, some ancillary characters, but you needed to have Frenchie in order to have a reason to bring Michael into the plot. But I just found myself asking bigger questions about Rydell High and about the setup of both movies. There's only 4 T-Birds. This isn't even a gang. I know in Grease 1, there was 5 members, so it was a little bit bigger. In 2 years, they've lost some, but they're not cool. They're not tough. The T-Birds are protecting their lockers when Michael comes over and like, hey, get away from it. Boom, 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 boom. And they break into like Barber's Quartet. I'm like, what is going on? Now you look contrary to that. The Psycho Lords, most of their members that used to be, they're part of the defunct Scorpions. So it's led by Leo Balmudo. And now that's a gang. That dude looks like he's 45. He looks like you dragged him behind a motorcycle. They pull up and the T-Birds like, oh, we're going to go bowling. And they run away. The T-Birds are a joke.
Right, but that's what's funny about it. I mean, that's the humor here. I mean, I think it's charming, the fact that it's this whole gag that they think they're cool, but they're not actually cool. Like when Johnny pulls out the comb and he just, brushes his hair and then runs back into the bowling alley. I mean, that juxtaposed with Balmudo, who clearly looks like he has, a couple ex-wives and some illegitimate kids somewhere,
Yes.
that he's paying child support for. I mean, that's really funny, that juxtaposition. And I don't know, I think that works.
But my only problem is, why do the rest of the students go along with the gag? If the rest of the students looked at them like they were a joke, I'd be like, okay. But instead, they're stringing up that poor dude's cello. They're pushing themselves around the school cafeteria. The rest of the students should look at them like, you guys are clowns.
Don't you remember what it's like in high school? You believe what you're told is cool. Like, I mean, the kids that were quote unquote cool at my high school are a bunch of fucking jokes today. And so, I mean, high school's stupid. Everybody's dumb in high school because everybody's putting on the front to try to be a part of something. And also it's the exclusivity too, right? Like if you are told you can be a part of something, but then other people can't be a part of it, that in of itself lends it a level of cool. I mean, it's the same thing with Danny and Kanicki in the first one. They weren't really cool either. They weren't like some hip gang.
The movie really truly is just the inverse from Grease 1, making the pink ladies the cool ones and the T-Birds the idiots, and, making the female protagonist awesome. And this new character that comes in, he's the fish out of water. He's the one that's trying to impress her, which I kind of liked. I kind of liked this character of Michael.
Yeah, I love Michael's character. First of all, Maxwell Caulfield, he was 21 when they started filming this and 22 by the time they finished. And I mean, he's gorgeous. He's absolutely, utterly beautiful. You could cut paper with his jawbone and his cheekbones. Yeah. I mean, he is a beautiful man. But there's a lot of criticism that comes with Grease 2 where people don't think he holds a candle to Danny, to John Travolta's character in Grease 1. And I've kind of hated on Sandy in Grease 1. So to be an equal opportunist, I also want to hate on Danny because I also don't like his character. I think you've got Danny Zuko here. You know, he lies about going all the way with some girl to his friends. He's too cool to say hello to her. And then we're supposed to feel sorry for him when he's got, you know, his little blue balls because he tries to grab her boob and she gets pissed. And then he sings, you know, this sad song. Just not into it. I've never thought Danny Zuko was cool. And Matthew Caulfield, I mean, his character isn't perfect, but he's not an asshole. And I think that Matthew Caulfield playing Michael, I think that he's got a ton of charisma. And I don't know. And I bought the chemistry between he and Stephanie later in the movie. And I bought why, you know, she would go for him at the end of the film because he's pretty.
Okay, but here's my, again, I've not seen Grease in a long time, but the character of Michael has one major flaw. He is an extremely attractive guy. He's this mysterious European exchange student. He has a British accent. He's intelligent. He has great style. He plays the piano. He's the new kid in school. And we all know the new kid in school, he becomes the flavor of the month. He's the new exciting addition. Every girl at school would be after him. He would not be struggling to have, any kind of relationship. And he's not the ugly duckling. There's no change. It wasn't like he was the nerd who came in and he had to do some kind of change to get liked. It involved a helmet, a pair of goggles, and a motorcycle.
And a sexy leather jacket because it's pretty hot without a shirt on. But I do think that they show that though, like the little virgin twins. I mean, they fall for him. I mean, there's a lot of like the, middle of the road girls, like the good girls that automatically go for him. But yeah, I think even the pink ladies would be turning their head. But again, I said social currency. Maybe that's what it is. He is hot, but he's not cool. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's hot. Stephanie should have turned her head before he put on that sexy jacket.
I don't know. If I'm Michael, I'm going after the twins. They seem like a lot of fun.
100%. Those two twins are hot and they seem very willing. 100%.
They're just down for whatever. They're cheerleaders.
Yes.
They're taking sex ed with Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm hanging out with those girls. Well, at the local bowling alley, a game turns sour due to the animosity between Johnny and Stephanie. Stephanie retaliates by kissing the next man who walks in the door, who happens to be Michael. And bemused by this unexpected kiss, Michael falls in love with Stephanie, so he asks her out, but he learns she has a very specific vision of her ideal man. And after realizing that he will only win her affections if he turns himself into a cool writer, Michael accepts payments from the T-Birds to write term papers for them, and he uses the cash to buy a Honda motorcycle.
So this is another thing I love about Stephanie Zinone's character. We see here in the bowling scene yet again that Johnny's just throwing himself all over her, and she wants nothing to do with it. She rejects it. And even better, when Paulette decides that she wants to be with Johnny instead, Stephanie's cool. She passes him off to him. There's no female competition. She's not woman hating. They're not infighting with each other. And that's a huge change from other movies and female tropes up until this point, where there always was like this innate competition between women. And it's just another show that Stephanie's just a super chill, cool girl.
Let me ask you this, Big D. I know we just did Kingpin and we've done a few other bowling movies, Big Lebowski. It's surprising because we did like the top 5 rated bowling movies. It's surprising that Grease 2 wasn't up here because this is a pretty significant scene and they do an entire dance number. Are you going to score? Or we're going to score tonight, I think is the song. Did you, in your junior bowling league days, were you aware of the song? Were you excited about the song? Were there nuns bowling alongside you and dancing?
There were not, but I feel that they disrespected bowling and the bowling alley. They're running down the lanes. They're firing the balls. They're cheating at scoring. They're not following any of the normal bowling etiquette or norms. So I was not a fan of this scene.
I think this is a fantastic scene from a classical musical standpoint. And is it cheesy? Absolutely, it's cheesy, but I think it's intentionally cheesy. If you look at any critic that talks about the difference between Grease and Grease 2, this is one of the musical numbers that they bring up that they think is just significantly better than anything that's done in Grease 1. And it's really, really catchy. I mean, every time we bowl, I sing that one line that Paulette sings where, she's like, hey, Johnny, Johnny, go for that strike, that, but I change it to Tommy because my husband's name is Tom, and so that's what it's like to be married to me. And he's unfortunately had to see this movie multiple times. And I don't know. I think the scene's super charming.
I mean, we keep comparing Grease 1 and Grease 2. One thing you cannot compare is the soundtracks. The original Grease, it's legendary. The album was nominated for Album of the Year at the 21st Annual Grammy Awards. It was nominated for an Academy Award for the song Hopelessly Devoted to You. The other songs on the album, You're the One That I Want, Summer Nights, Grease Lightning, We Go Together, Blue Moon with Shana Na, There Are Worse Things I Could Do, Beauty School Dropout with Frankie Avalon, the Grease theme with Barry Gibbs and Frankie Valli. That fucking song fires me up, and I picture the movie, I get in the vibe, and I get this.
The parts of a flower are so constructed that very, very often the wind will cause pollination.
I just want to let it go for a second.
If not, then a bee or any
I mean, you're comparing an opening number with an in-movie number. I don't think that that's fair at all. I think you would have to play the opening of Grease with the opening of Grease 2.
But compare this versus Grease Lightning or any of the other ones that he named.
But that isn't a Grease Lightning
Hopelessly Devoted
film.
to You.
Beauty School Dropout.
Beauty School Dropout.
Right. And I think it's a matter of taste. I mean, when I look at the Grease 1 soundtrack, I will absolutely give you There Are Worse Things I Could Do. I think is a great song. I think that You're the One That I Want is annoying, but whatever. I think that We Go Together is fine. I think that Grease Lightning's fantastic. I think there's a couple of good songs, but I'm not a huge fan of the Grease soundtrack. And I think a lot of that is because that style of music is a style of music that I wasn't a fan of when I was a kid or even a fan now. And it's totally different. We're doing a lot of comparing of Grease 1 and Grease 2 because it's a sequel, but the soundtracks are totally different. Grease 2 soundtrack is meant to be more of a classical musical build in songs than Grease 1 is. And so I don't know. I think it's a matter of taste.
I think the bowling song we're going to score tonight, I think that's pretty memorable. And I do agree with you. The choreography really stands out. That is the best scene. If you're purely looking at it from a musical perspective, 100% agree. But when it got to Cool Writer, I was so excited. I was like, well, this is the song that Ashley says is the best. She thinks it's better than Grease 1. I can't wait to hear Cool Writer. I think there's two things here. Number one, Michelle Pfeiffer is not as strong of a singer as Olivia Newton-John. Olivia Newton-John was a trained, singer. Number two, Cool Writer sounds like a song performed by Meatloaf.
It does.
However, where Michelle Pfeiffer really shines is in that choreography where she turns that ladder into a sexual object. That was intense. I just think that when a warm-blooded mammal in a tight little sweater starts pulling that stuff, is she saying that she wants to do it? I mean, I'll tell you what, it made my stamen go berserk.
Oh my goodness.
Your stamen.
Okay.
Your stamen.
Stamen. My stamen.
Your stamen.
My stamen.
Yeah. Question of stamina. No, but I will totally not abide this because Cool Writer's a fucking cool song. And anybody who loves this movie loves this song. It is cheesy. It is ridiculous in the best way. It is campy. And that's what I think you guys are kind of missing about this movie is that this movie is meant to be campy. It's camp. It's not meant to be taken so seriously. It's meant to be campy. And I agree with you about the ladder. Everybody wanted to be the ladder. She's amazing. But what I love about Cool Writer is it's this character who's expressing this intense sexual fantasy that she has about somebody clad in tight leather burning her through and through, to quote the song. And Michael goes to make it happen for her. And I don't think I could ask for anything more from a hot British exchange student than for him to go clad himself in leather and burn me through and through.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever listened to Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light?
I don't think I've ever heard anything by Meatloaf other than that one.
Have you ever glowed by the metal on the edge of a knife?
Okay. Normally Roger's, he's crazy, but maybe I'm crazy too. That did cross my mind just listening to the song. When you get that
crazy.
Guitar
Y'all
riff.
are nuts. Y'all are nuts.
'Cause it's cold and lonely. All right. Following an unusual biology lesson given by Mr. Stewart, a substitute teacher, a gang of rival motorcyclists called the Cycle Lords, of course, as we mentioned, led by Leo Belmudo, surprise the T-Birds at the bowling alley, and before the fight starts, a lone mysterious biker appears and defeats the enemy gang and disappears into the night. The next evening, while working at a gas station, Stephanie is surprised again by the mystery biker, and they enjoy a romantic twilight motorcycle ride, which includes a kiss. The cool writer says that he will see her again at the high school's talent show, and meanwhile, Lewis, one of the T-Birds, attempts to trick his sweetheart Sharon, one of the Pink Ladies, into losing her virginity by taking her to Michael's fallout shelter and faking a nuclear attack. I believe the musical number was "Let's Do It for Our Country."
So this scene where we finally get to see like the Superman Michael, if Clark Kent is regular, sweater-clad Michael, then this is Superman Michael in that hat rod. Then I think what's great here is he continues to have immense amounts of charisma. I never really got why people thought Danny Zuko was hot in Grease 1. But a lot of this is my own problem, probably with John Travolta. I am not a John Travolta fan at all in any movie. And so that probably has something to do with it. But I get why she wants to be with Michael, or the who's that guy, special guy on the bike. Really fun fact, something I did not know until I did research for this pod, is that we were supposed to find out what happened to the original Danny and Sandy in this movie. We were supposed to find out that they got married and that they're now running a gas station together, that Michael and Stephanie were supposed to stop at on the way out of town at the end of this movie. And I don't know about you, but that made me just really sad for Sandy's character in particular. But I think it's indicative of, and kind of gross about, the kind of guy that she settled with Danny. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I don't think it was a gas station. It would probably be something more along the lines of he fixes old cars and soups them up like Grease Lightning.
No, very specifically a filling station.
Oh,
that's specifically what it said originally.
But a filling station in the 60s.
It is a filling station.
Yes, in this little town, you would picture Danny with like a little bit of a gut. His hair is starting to thin.
Sure.
Sandy would come out pregnant with like 2 other kids. Oh, it would be a cautionary tale. It would be a very different movie.
I guess the issue that I have is that when he is in he's less Superman and he's more Batman, because the cool writer is now using his Batman voice. He's like, hi.
It's very deep.
It's very deep like this. And he's got, like you said, no shirt under that jacket. Like, if that was me, I would just laugh at this nimwit. I mean, I get that he's smart. I get that he's English. But how do you go from never knowing, what a motorcycle is to fixing it up and learning how to ride like this?
Well, Michael obviously is a fast learner. Okay, he's been riding maybe a week. He started out in the field. He was doing wheelies. He beat the shit out of that poor Frankenstein bike that he made. But when he shows up at the bowling alley, you're right. He is Batman. He is fucking jumping police cars. He's outside. He's riding circles around the Cycle Lords. How did he learn to drive so quickly? You know what I mean? This has to be embarrassing to Johnny. He is exposing him as a complete biker fraud, right? I mean, Stephanie is straddling him on the highway and he's doing a fucking wheelie. This is a high school male who's obviously pining for Stephanie. He has to be aroused, but yet he can control that hog and go down the highway pulling a wheelie.
It makes me ask the question, where does the pollen go? And it also makes me want to kind of dance around like Goose does as a sperm and go into the ovary. Like, that's some top-notch choreography there.
Okay, the reproduction song is one of the most famous parts of this movie, and I think it's funny. I think what's so great about Grease 2 is Grease 1 has all of these like underlying, very subtle, double entendre, sexuality. Like Grease Lightning, the song itself, that's the most sexual that whole movie gets, and this one is over-sexualized, and I think it's really fun. This is the more famous song. This and Cool Rider are the more famous ones, and the one that everybody loves to sing from Grease 1 is Summer Nights. And I've always thought that song was super gross. I mean, they've got the throwaway line in there of, did she put up a fight, right? Like, it's a really gross song about whether or not he raped her. And what's great about this movie is there's an equality of sexuality here. The guys are complaining about the girls are complaining about the guys. There's guy virgins who are nervous. There's girl virgins who are nervous. Those twins that you want to have sex with clearly are the virgins here. I think that it's amazing. And I think it's a lot better than any sex ed class I ever had, where the teacher inappropriately asked us questions about our own bodies. I was 13. I've never been more mortified than in my sex ed class. I would have much preferred to have Goose running around like a sperm.
Wait a minute. So you're complaining that Grease Lightning and Summer Nights is over-sexualized when there's a literal song number in Grease 2 where he like traps her in a nuclear fallout with his friends to force her to have sex with him?
No, I never said I was complaining that they were over-sexualized. I said that they're the most sexual points in the movie. I was complaining about the rapiness of Summer Nights. But I agree with you. This is the one problem I have with this movie is the let's rape someone for our country song that gets done here. It goes all kind of wrong with this song where Lewis takes Sharon in there. I love Lewis as a character up until this point. I think he's really charming, but he brings his girlfriend in and tries to lie about the world ending. And, it's gross. I completely think it's gross. I think there's no excuse. I hate it every time. And making it even worse is that Sharon, whoever plays her, cannot sing. Like, she has the worst voice in this entire movie, cannot find a key. And I hate this part of this movie. I'll completely give that to both of you, but I don't think it's any more egregious than the multiple things that happen in Grease 1.
And at this point, I have to pull out my Shat the Movies law degree. Okay.
We need Ken L from Shat on TV.
I'm going to go back to Revenge of the Nerds. This crime is actually called rape by deception. In that movie, Lewis puts on Stan's outfit, his Halloween hat and mask, tricks Betty, I think her name is Betty, into having sex. He then takes off his mask. She goes, "Oh, nerds do it so well." That's rape. You cannot trick somebody into having sex with you. So we're lucky that this did not go down, because I think that one cop who gets jumped over, he might be making some, giving some prison jewelry to Lewis.
Well, at the talent show, Stephanie and the cool writer meet up, but they are abruptly ambushed by the T-Birds, who pursue Michael on their respective motorcycles. They chase him to a construction site, which conceals a deadly drop, and the biker's absence suggests that he has perished below, leaving Stephanie heartbroken. Johnny and his T-Birds remove the competing Preptones, or the Preppy Boys, by tying him to a shower pole in the boys' locker room and drenching them. And during the Pink Lady's performance in the talent show, Stephanie enters a dreamlike fantasy world where she is reunited with her mystery biker. She is therefore named winner of the contest and crowned the queen of the upcoming graduation luau, with Johnny hailed as king for his performance of Prowlin' with his fellow T-Birds.
So I'm going to say something controversial right now. This is supposed to be a campy film, right? Ash, fuck Stephanie, right? She's heartbroken. She's devastated. She's all upset. He left me, boo-hoo-hoo. You just fucking watched him drive off of a bridge. Call the police. Look down off the bridge. Go look in the water. Go walk around. He could be right down there bleeding to death. Do we go down to check for him? No. We got to get back to the talent show. Fuck you, Stephanie. Fuck you, T-Birds. Pink Ladies also. You've abandoned your civic duty. I don't care if this is campy. You're reprehensible.
I don't disagree at all. But if it hadn't happened, we wouldn't have gotten one of my favorite parts of the movie, which is my girl for all seasons. I mean, I think it's such a cute little song. It puts us in this time frame when this movie is supposed to be taking place. And I don't know if you guys knew this or not. I didn't. Paulette, she's played by Lorna Luft, Judy Garland's daughter, which I did not know. I had no clue that Judy Garland had a daughter other than Liza Minnelli, but that made me think twice about this film and obviously why she's got the pipes that she has. But I think that Your Girl for All Season is super cute. I think it's a great number, and I think it's really classic for a musical.
I think it's great that they could perform after the tragedy that they had just witnessed. After Johnny, presumably being split open all over the ground, they performed really well. They stepped up to the challenge.
Well,
it wasn't Johnny.
It was
the cool writer. It was the cool writer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Mike.
So after watching Michael spread out all over the floor and die, they really got over that tragedy quickly. Way to step up.
They do say that they don't see him down there. And Stephanie certainly doesn't get over it. She has that little nervous breakdown, which leads into one of the best cheesy numbers from the whole movie. But yeah, they probably should have called the cops.
The camera should have panned down into the darkness, and you see poor Michael's broken body laying, and he's bleeding out, and he's thinking, help.
Yeah, but I mean, he's basically Batman here, right? He's trying to trick everyone, that he died. He's going to be the hero they deserve, but not the one they need. But I just don't get how you respect a guy that will learn how to rebuild paint and simultaneously learn how to ride a cafe racer in a week, but also draws hearts continuously in his diary in his little nuclear fallout basement while singing about his soft side behind his charade. Like, that's not Batman. Batman doesn't do that. Batman hangs around with prepubescent boys and makes him his sidekick, but he doesn't draw hearts in his little notebook.
I'm sorry, he can't
Will
be
they ever see behind my charade?
Dude, that's so offensive, Roger. Don't do a voice like that. That's so offensive.
That's what he sings. That's literally the song.
I know, but the way you sang it, I mean, I'm sorry he's not a masculine bro enough for you throughout the entire fucking movie.
He wants to be a bro. He literally becomes a bro.
He does not become a bro. He becomes a T-bird. It's a very different thing. I mean,
wait a minute. Are you saying a dude in all leather, glasses, he's not broing out and kicking people and jumping motorcycle cars?
I think you and I have a very different opinion about what a bro is. I think a bro is a dude with a popped collar and Sperry's that joins a fraternity and that drinks a bunch of beer. I mean, that's a bro.
The final thing Stephanie does do is pop the collar in his leather jacket.
That's exactly what he does.
But what I do have a problem is that he changes his voice to bro. You want to go for a ride later?
Let's go.
But then he sings, and you juxtapose his Batman voice to his singing voice.
Yeah.
That was odd.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Charade is one of my I'll give you this. Charade is one of my least favorite songs. I think it's a boring song. This movie has a little bit too long of a runtime, and they could have cut that song for sure. But I do love when he's standing on top of his silver motorcycle mountain, though, in our dream sequence. I know that this part of this movie is so cheesy. It is so campy, but it's amazing. I mean, it's campy as fuck, and it's beautiful that it's so campy. I mean, this is the most like John Waters, like Hairspray and Crybaby campiness moment of this film. And I think that Grease 1 takes itself very seriously, but this is fun. It's a great song to sing along to. I think that people that love this movie, this is one of the songs that like Grease 2 sing-alongs that people sing to the most, that they duet on. And it's fantastic. And then the transition back to Stephanie where she's singing by herself, you have to think like on the parts when Michael's singing, is she just standing on stage in silence? Like, while he's supposedly singing, does she sing both parts? I mean, the questions abound, but it's fun. It's fun and it's fantastic.
I mean, I think it would have been more fun if you'd had, Frankie Avalon up there in silver with all the girls in the beauty school in silver, in heaven, singing. That might have been fun also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they could have sang about dropping out of,
beauty school. Right.
Well, but see, this is another link between movie 1 and movie 2. Dream sequence.
The school ends with the luau, during which the Psycho Lords appear and begin to destroy the celebration. However, the cool writer reappears. After he defeats the Psycho Lords again, he reveals himself to be Michael, and initially shocked that Johnny gives him a T-Birds jacket, officially welcoming him into the gang, and Stephanie is delighted that she can now be with him. Michael and Stephanie share a very passionate kiss, and he whispers that he loves her. All the couples pair off happily at the seniors' graduation as the graduating class sings, "We'll be together." The credits start rolling in yearbook style as in the original film and movie.
So now in the first movie, I think we get, it's like the fair. It's the end of season, like carnival. In this one, we get the luau. And I mean, it is the fucking Wicker apocalypse. The bikers come out. They're just running over shit. They're destroying every piece of wicker at the luau they can find. And I find myself asking, where are the adults? Why doesn't somebody stand up and take charge? Yes, the Psycho Lords, they're a little bit older, but come on, be a fucking adult. All you got to do is stick one of those tiki torches into the front spokes of one of those bikes, and this shit comes to an end quick. We don't need Arthur Fonzarelli trying to jump the shark tank and ending up in the water. Step up, people. Come on, Rydell High is just devolving into chaos.
Yeah, cultural appropriation aside, I kind of wish a couple of kids jumped into that volcano they had in the pool. This movie is way too long, you mentioned. I feel like it's way too bloated. And honestly, I'm going to have to push back on you, Ashley. The only reason Stephanie gets with Michael is because he's totally transformed himself into this cool writer. That's the purpose of this movie. You're saying that Sandy changes herself in Grease 1 and that's the only reason Danny likes her? No, Danny's like, I love this girl no matter who she is.
Oh my God,
drop
Roger.
all auspicious, drop the charade. We're going to love each other. The only reason Stephanie is with Michael is because he's totally transformed who he is. And he's this cool writer now.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say it for the third time on the podcast. Sandy does not drop any charades. She is dressed like a pink lady. She's completely opposite herself. He does not love her as she is. He loves her as she changes. But Stephanie very specifically says to Michael, I get 2 for the price of 1, because he asks her if she's upset, that's him, that the cool writer is him. And she says, of course not, because we see all these other little scenes sprinkled out where she's also falling for Michael, but she doesn't know if she can be with Michael. And so she loves him for all all of who he is. But I think that that's the fantastic thing. And it's not just me, like everybody who talks about this movie, like this is one of the things they love about it is that, yes, Michael does things to change for her. He changes things about himself, but he still maintains who he is at the end of the movie. And that's the difference here. And also, I'm sorry, even if he didn't, it's a wonderful switch to see a dude change himself for a girl than for every fucking movie trope that existed up until this point and many times after that, where all girls are having to do is exactly what Sandy does and go make themselves a little slutty and a little hot so that they go up and that the man actually wants them. And that's a huge problem for me. And that's something that I really like about this movie.
It's just not as fun. I apologize. The "We'll Be Together" is obviously trying to be like "We'll Go Together," but again, not fun. Just the ending. I watched "We'll Go Together" just to see if I can contrast it to and be like, well, maybe I'm misremembering the fun of Grease. Maybe it wasn't as fun. But I threw on "We'll Go Together." I watched this with my sister and my aunt, and they both were like, "Oh my God, thank you. This is so much better." What do you like about "We'll Be Together" at the end?
So "We Go Together," the song that is at the end of Grease 1, it is more up-tempo, sure. But let's look at the lyrics of this fucking song. So we go together like Rama Lama Lama Kadingada-Ding-da-Dong.
Yeah.
Remembered forever as Shoobop Shawada Wada Yippity Boom to Boom. Chang Chang. Changity Chang Shabop. That's the way it should be. Wow. Yeah, not a fucking gym, in my opinion. I think it's an annoying song. It is more up-tempo. Yes, it's easier to dance to, but it's a stupid, gibberishy song, y'all. I mean, it is. It's silly.
Is it fun?
No,
would you
it's
say
up-tempo.
Would you say it's campy? Would you say it harkens back to the doo-wop days of the 1950s?
But that's not campy. That's representative of the 50s that it's trying to be. I just think it's annoying. What do I like about this final number? Well, I already said the thing about Stephanie. The other thing is I think this song gives everybody a really nice closure, as most movie musicals need. I especially really like the interaction between Paulette and Johnny, where she finally, gets him to say he's okay with her dressing the way she wants, as she should, because it's her fucking body. You get that cute little line with Sharon where she says, "There's nothing wrong with just liking each other," so she's going to stay a virgin. It's really cute the way they wrap everybody up. And I don't know. I think that it's nice, and it closes the movie out nicer than, them flying into the sky in a car, starting the great debate about whether or not everybody's just been dead the whole time in Grease 1 and they're all angels going off to teenage heaven.
God, if it's even possible to date myself even more than I already have, saying I saw this in the theater, I went to see Sha-Na Na with my father, okay? They sing Blue Moon in this. And the main singer, I think his name was Bowser. I think part of his thing was like, umba. He would do these crazy-ass sounds. So, yes, that "We'll Be Together," that shama-lama-lama, da-ding-a-da-ding-chua, I get it. And I don't know if it's because I was exposed to that as a kid. But fuck whether or not, the whole thing with Sandy, whether she changed and Michael, whatever. I found myself asking, why does Michael want to hang out with this fucking bunch of losers? Michael, you're better than them all, Michael. You have a future. You're a straight A student. Most of the T-Birds, they're developmentally challenged at best. They have serious issues with their education at Rydell High and probably at their homes. The Pink Ladies, they have no direction. What are they doing? I don't hear anybody talking about their degrees, how they're going to better themselves. They're choosing to tie themselves to this group of misfit losers riding around on mopeds who can't outride an English foreign exchange student who's never ridden a motorcycle a week before. Come on. How long until Michael kicks Johnny out as the alpha dog? I expect to come back in a year in Grease 3, and Johnny has now created some other misfit biker gang. Michael, stay away from him. You're better than all of these kids. Go back to England. Leave Rydell High.
I think he probably already has taken over as the alpha. I think
100%.
I think for sure. I think Johnny's playing second fiddle to Michael's sweet motorcycle moves.
Well, now's the time of the podcast to break out our shat meters and give you our wipe scores. If you've never listened to the podcast before, a 0 wipe is a perfect movie, and a 5 wipe is a terrible movie. We'll start with you, Ash. How many wipes do you give Grease 2?
So I don't think it's any surprise by this point that I really like this film. But do I think that it's a perfect film? No, I don't. I think that, as I mentioned, it's a little bloated. I'll steal your word there, Roger. It's a little bloated. It's a little too long. It's about 20 minutes, about 15, 20 minutes longer than the original Grease. And I think you feel that in certain places. it does undo some of the worst parts that I personally think that the original has. I also think this movie has amazing songs. It's got great dance numbers. It gave us the magic of Michelle Pfeiffer, the actress, and this amazing feminist icon in Stephanie. But there are some missteps. I think Do It For Our Country is memorable, but disgusting. It's memorable for the wrong reasons. But a lot of the other songs are fun to sing to. It's this sugar saccharine musical. There's this overt sexuality. And that combined with the sugariness, I think makes it a really fun combination. I think it's a massive improvement on Grease 1. And it's a movie that even without Grease 1, I think stands pretty firmly on its own as the cult classic that it has become. And so because of all those reasons, I'm giving it 1 solid wipe.
How about you, Big D? Do you agree with her score of 1 wipe?
No, unfortunately not. I do not agree. But my rationale is this. I understand and I see the value in subverting our expectations. They're going to flip all the things that were wrong with Grease, and they're going to set out and they're going to make this a story about the female powerful protagonist. And I think that's great. But you know what you did? You handcuffed the entire crew by not writing a goddamn script. Don't try to make this movie that's going to make a powerful statement about the previous musical and leave the poor director out there on her own to blindly walk through every day of shooting. I think that's bullshit. And I think you cheated what could have been an actual powerful movie. I think there's parts that are amateurish. I think some of the songs, instead of getting established artists to go out there and sing and perform, it seemed more haphazard. The flash mobs looked like a group of people that I'd gathered at the mall and gave them 35 minutes of training, said, you train 5 people, then they train 5 people, get out there and film it. So for that, unfortunately, I have to give it a 4 wipe. I think if you had given the script time to be developed, then it would have made sense. You put together a soundtrack that kicks ass, that rivals, and this could have been. There's a reason why you went from the 26th largest grossing film in history to a $15 million film. And I think that starts at the top with the studio. And I think it's sad. I would have liked to have seen what it possibly could have become of this.
So how many wipes do you give it?
4.
Yeah, again, I apologize, Ash. I apologize, Mike from Norfolk. I really tried to like this movie. I even watched it with my sister and my aunt this morning. We 3 collectively agreed it's not a great movie. It's perhaps one of the worst sequels ever made. And I don't think that comes as a mainstream surprise. It does have a very niche audience that defends it. And I think maybe that could have a little bit of a hipster element or a generational thing to it. Back to School and Score Tonight are the only good songs in my humble opinion. Also the best choreography. But after this movie ended, we turned on Grease 1 and you could tell that there was real heart chemistry between the cast. And I think that comes along with Big D, everything that you said. The fact that it was a Broadway musical before, the songs were well established. The script, the story was well established. And the fact that they rushed Grease 2 into production just to capitalize off it, that's the reason that sequels suffered, early on. Now everything's a sequel, but back then sequels were always terrible. And again, I do apologize, but I do believe Grease is a far superior movie. And maybe it's because I grew up and I had the experience with Grease as I did, similar to what Ash's experience is. And I'm really trying not to put on my nostalgia glasses, but I do believe Grease 2 took a tumble off Dead Man's Curve. I'll do this though. I was going to give it 4.5 wipes, but because I really love the choreography and Score Tonight, I'm going to take half a wipe off and I'm going to give it 4 wipes. So I'm going to agree with Big D there. Oh. So 1 wipe, 4 and 4. That gives us what, Big D?
Well, that's nice to hear that we could kind of shift your thoughts as we recorded.
Sure. And I liked the what they tried to do with Stephanie's character. Like at no point does she try to do anything other than what she likes. And I thought that's kind of cool for an early 80s movie, especially in a musical. I thought that was cool. I really like that.
And like I've stated before, the one thing that pisses me off is a waste of potential. You had the potential. You're coming off a great film. I've harped enough. I'm sorry. So that gives us a combined wipe score of 3 wipes, and that now ties it in the 113 spot with Christmas Vacation and Over the Top. It is slightly better than Armageddon and Boondock Saints, and slightly worse than Revenge of the Nerds and Flatliners.
I think Christmas Vacation is better than this. But
I think that Revenge of the Nerds is a horrendous movie, so I think this is significantly better than Revenge of the Nerds. But that's fine. I mean, I'm not butthurt. It's no big deal. You all can be wrong. It's no problem.
I wasn't on the Revenge of the Nerds podcast, but I do remember watching it a lot as a kid.
I mean, besides the whole rape by deception or that Gilbert and Lewis had sex with farm animals, other than that, it is a fine, upstanding 1980s film.
Other than that.
Other than that.
Other than just those minor details.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you can go to our website, shatthemovies.com, and see all the rankings in the pantheon of Shat, but that does it for this review. Big D, what movie are we doing next?
So next week, we will be doing a film that I think probably 90% of the population of the world has seen. It tells the story of a slow-witted man who's never thought of himself as disadvantaged, and thanks to his supportive mother, he leads an anything but restricted life. Whether he's dominating on the gridiron as a college football star, fighting in the Vietnam War, or captaining his shrimp boat, this man inspires people with his childlike optimism. But one person he cares about most may be the most difficult to save, his childhood love, the sweet but troubled Jenny. This was commissioned by Joshua, who's previously commissioned The Crow and the Karate Kid, and his brother Adam, who commissioned Princess Bride and Bad Boys. So thank you again for another great movie, guys, for commissioning this. It came out in July of 1994, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it was a winner of the best movie, I believe, for the Academy Awards that year. So everybody should know what it is, and it should be a good one.
Yeah. So again, thank you, Mike from Norfolk, and all of our commissioneers that have ever commissioned a movie here at Shat the Movies. We really certainly appreciate that, and following us everywhere on social media. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. If you are not following us on social media, or you don't have the money to commission, the easiest way that you can do is to follow us and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. Our handle is at Shat the Movies. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and Watchmen. You can find all the information on that website, shatontv.com. Also, we have a Twitch channel for all you Twitch people. If you go to shatthemovies.com/Twitch, there are 3 current shows throughout the week. I do a Florida Man podcast with Mr. C and Ben, and that is where we talk about the top headlines from that week in Florida and kind of do the give it the Shat treatment that we do here at the movies. That's Tuesday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, it gets uploaded to YouTube, I think, a week later. You do Squad Goals, which I think that's on Wednesdays.
Yeah, every Wednesday we be playing a different game. Big D has an Xbox. He finally spent the cash. He dominated at Call of Duty Warzone this past week. And if you watch the YouTube video, you know I just lied. But we change it up every week. This week, if you're listening, we're doing Fortnite. But every week we change it up, and that's at 8:30 on Wednesday nights live. And it is Big D, myself, and Gene.
And then Friday is Shappy Hour. And how do you describe that, Ash?
It is the shappiest of hours, and by hour we mean usually 2 or 3 hours. But the group just gets together and feel free to kick up, have some drinks, talk about the week, talk about what we're doing on the pod, and it's at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, and they are uploaded. Both Squad Goals and Shappy Hour are uploaded to YouTube the next day. So feel free to check us out there if you don't have a Twitch. But if you would like one, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can use your Prime account to transition that to a Twitch Prime account to catch all of the above, from Florida Man on Tuesdays to hanging out with us with Squad Goals on Wednesdays to having a couple cocktails with us on Fridays. We'd love to see you there.
That does it. Yeah. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Ashley Schlafly, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie review. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Good night and good luck.
And stay the fuck at home.
Hello, my name's Forrest Gump. Would you like a chocolate?
Oh, thank you.
It's funny what a young man recollects.
You're the same as everybody else. You are no different.
Your boy's different.
Are you stupid or something? Mama says stupid is as stupid does. I'm Jenny. I'm Forrest Gump.
She was my most special friend. My only friend. We was together all the time. We was like peas and carrots, Jenny and I.
Run, Forrest!
believe it if I told you, but I can run like the wind blows.
Who in the hell is that?
That there's Forrest Gump, Coach. Just a local idiot. I never thought it would take me anywhere. They even put me on a thing called the All-America Team, where you get to meet the President of the United States.
Congratulations. How does it feel to be an All-American?
I gotta pee.
I believe he said he had to go pee.
Now, maybe it's just me, but college was very confusing times.
Have you ever been with a girl, Forrest?
I sit next to them in my home economics class all the time.
Have you given any thought to your future?
Go! What's your sole purpose in this army?
To do whatever you tell me, drill sergeant.
You're a damn genius. You are going to be a general someday, go.
Yes, drill sergeant!
They sending me to Vietnam.
Listen, you promised me something, okay? If you're ever in trouble, don't try to be brave. You just run, okay?
Okay.
Where are you boys from in the world?
Alabama, sir.
You twins?
No, we are not relations, sir. For some reason, what I was doing seemed to make sense to people.
Forget about me and get yourself out!
Been awarded the Medal of Honor.
How come? Now, my mama was always telling me how miracles happen every day. Some people don't think so,
Jenny!
but they do. You can come home with me at my house in Greenbow. I'll take care of you.
Why are you so good to me?
You're my girl.
Paramount Pictures presents Tom Hanks.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
Robin Wright.
Will you marry me? I'd make a good husband, Jenny.
You would, Forrest.
But you won't marry me.
Gary Sinise.
I never thanked you for saving my life.
And Sally Field.
My boy Forrest is going to get the same opportunities as everyone else.
A film by Robert Zemeckis.
What's my destiny, Mom?
You're going to have to figure that out for yourself.
The world will never seem the same once you've seen it through the eyes of Forrest Gump.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
I'm sorry, guys. Just 1 second.
No problem.
Ben, what are you doing, bud?
I don't know. I'm going to...
I don't know. That's a bad answer for kids.
No.
Run in with scissors.
No, go with Daddy. Then there will be no Jenga and trouble when I'm done.
Oh, shit. No Jenga. But trouble. There would be trouble.